Hey guys, so today we're gonna be talking about Comus, and it has a lot of very dark themes, sexual assault, a lot of really just bad shit. So if you're not into that, then by all means, please skip the episode because we don't want to upset anybody.
Free Palestine. Hey guys, I have a question.
What's your question?
What the fuck is a Comus?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I assumed it was just like a fun name, but I'm
Oh,
sure.
named after the Greek god Comus. I had the Wikipedia page open and just like I looked up and like saw name after the name of the Greek god Comus, who was in Greek mythology. Comus is the god of festivity, revels, and nocturnal dalliances. Represents anarchy and chaos.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of like our podcast. Welcome back to the Album Spotlight Podcast, the only podcast that puts a spotlight on albums. My name's Noah.
My name's Freddie.
My name's Nathaniel. Literally the only one that does that, by the way.
Yes, we're the only podcast that has ever talked about albums or music in any form.
Well,
I think
you
it's
can
safe to
talk
say.
about an album, but there's a difference between talking about an album and putting a spotlight on an album. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
Anyone
You're
can
so
talk
true.
about an album.
But we have the spotlight.
We operate the album spotlight as the keepers of the album spotlight podcast.
Yes. We keep it under lock and key.
Yeah, we're not gonna show you the spotlight until years down the line.
Till it shines on you, then you'll be in the album spotlight.
You, audience member, you know who you are. You.
I'm talking to you, Michael from
Winnipeg.
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Colorado.
Or Winnipeg.
One of the two. Maybe it goes between them.
Yeah.
Well, this is our first folk album, right?
I think you might be right.
Which is very fun because it's a very interesting folk album to start with.
Yeah, folk is a generous term for it, but it is sort of loosely that.
What does Comus mean to you?
To me, it primarily means the band.
When I think of Comus, I think of the fucked up man on the cover.
Yeah. Did you know the singer drew that?
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Have you seen the full image, by the way, where you see his like?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was like, he looks fucked up.
Yeah, the gatefold. Yeah, it's a mangled creature of some sort. I still don't totally know, but
It's a poor man.
Yeah,
He looks so in pain.
I just think of like the sort of like narrator throughout the album is just kind of like being this creature, you know?
Yeah,
Or,
they
like,
never said the name of the album.
yeah.
Oh,
I think we should just never say it. Well, we actually did, but we never said that. Like, we never like, you know.
We said it was Comus, so like people could probably guess that it's like in the title.
It'll be
But
the title.
the name is
Anyway.
First Utterance. It's the first album by Comus.
Okay.
First Utterance, yes.
Yeah.
Folk group, it's experimental, weird group, Comus.
Yeah.
First
So.
Utterance.
And I agree, Freddie. When I heard this album, I just pictured the album cover being the person that was singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did have another album much later, which was not nearly as good. So they're not technically like, it's not exactly the sort of thing where it's like the band and the album are like kind of inseparable, but it's like pretty close to that.
They technically had two later.
Yeah. Did they have another one?
Yeah, they had one in '74, which was more of a which nobody remembers, and it isn't on streaming.
Yeah, they had that random. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I
haven't heard of it.
Forget about those. I just think of the revival one where they tried to do the Comus thing again. Yeah, I always forget that they did something even different.
Yeah, that one was more of like a more normal album, I think, from what I hear.
Boring.
Yeah, and then they came back in 2012 with Out of the Coma, which was which was mostly just revisiting the First Utterance sound.
And you can tell by the cover. It's like trying to be the sequel, but it's like kind of the magic isn't quite But yeah, their sort of indisputed best is their first album, first Utterance, from what, 1971? Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the genre tag is mildly disputed. I would say it is definitely freak folk, but
Yeah.
maybe not
Mhm.
everyone. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of loosely in the sort of psychedelic. I mean, it's basically it's within the sort of psychedelic folk scene, and then it's this like particularly. I mean, it's just like it's a very high energy, extremely like maniacal delivery of like every element on it. So I think freak folk it's very hard not to have that be.
I mean, those genre names are pretty disputed in general about whether like on Wikipedia, it just says that psychedelic folk is also known as freak folk.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like they're kind of niche things, like enough that there's still not really a real consensus over what the right name for any of this stuff is.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Yeah, I think of psychedelic folk as being like a more capacious genre, but sort of the first thing to know about this album is basically just like it sounds like absolutely nothing else that anyone was making at that time, or like arguably
Mhm.
anyone has made since.
Yeah,
Like every time I hear it, I'm like, I don't know. It could have come out in like 2018. I don't know. I would have thought it was like similarly like really inventive and interesting and new. But except it came out in 1971. It's just this completely like out of time thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the recording itself just sounds so modern, like
It does,
almost
yeah,
impossibly
yeah.
modern. Like I listened to their comeback album, and the recording quality is like basically the same throughout most of it. Yeah, there is like a certain magic to this album that isn't quite captured on the comeback, but yeah, just like in terms of an engineering and recording perspective, it's pretty similar. So that's kind of wild that just every aspect of this album just feels out of time, I guess. And it's definitely influential, but yeah, nothing has really like copied it. There's nothing that sounds exactly like this. Like you could definitely point to some bands that like either say they were directly influenced by them, or you could kind of tell what they might have been. But
Yeah.
there isn't really another album that sounds like this, I think.
If I had to trace like the sort of truest adherence, like the legacy of this album, I would probably point to like sort of the neo folk scene that emerged in like the 80s. So that's like Current
Yeah.
93 and Death in June and stuff, but that's like
Yeah, I was gonna
so, yeah, or
vocally,
but
it's very Current 93.
yeah, I bet this was like a big like influence on like David Tibet.
I have
Yeah.
confirmation that it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know they
okay,
like
that makes a
he
lot of
covered
sense.
Diana. I know is
Yeah, he
yeah.
covered Diana, and he also I saw like one interview that Comus did, or I read it rather, and I think they said that like David Tibet kind of no, it was Mikkel from Opeth, or maybe both of them kind of had a hand in getting the band back together.
Oh,
Really? That's so funny.
Yeah,
that's kind of sweet.
I believe the comeback album was like on David Tibet's label.
Oh.
Yeah, what was it?
Uh,
Yeah.
I think.
We're talking a lot about like, oh, this album sounds like nothing else, but I don't think we've actually tried to explain what it sounds like,
Yeah,
which is really difficult because it really is like one of those albums where it's like you just have to listen to it to fully understand what this is like. But if I had to
try
like
though.
yeah, if I had to try to paint a picture, it'd be like demonic, crazy folk. Like the instruments are going like ape shit almost all the time. The vocals are going crazy.
Folk
Like
recorded by an evil forest imp.
yeah, I mean it's kind of like Current 93 in that regard, where it just sounds like this like this like evil like gesture or like forest creature just like singing and screaming and playing an instrument really well. Yeah, yeah, the instrumentation in this is crazy good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it's extremely well performed.
That is the first thing I noticed, really. Well, that and the Diana. Diana.
yeah. I think this album has some of the best vocal performances ever. Like
I
period.
would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, the lead vocalist on most of the songs is Roger Roger Wooten. Yeah, the female vocalist is Bobby Watson, and they both do an incredible job. They just have so much like vocal presence.
Yeah, they play off each other really well.
Yeah, yeah, they have great chemistry. Yeah, the contrast between their voices is great because like Roger's voice sounds a lot more fucked up, I guess.
Crazed.
Yeah, crazed, twisted. Whereas Bobby's are a little more like ominous, like a bit more traditional, but she's hitting these like crazy high notes.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Swans almost, with like how the male and female vocals go off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if Michael Giras heard this or would enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure you would enjoy it, but
Yeah,
The thing where like I don't know, a piece of music just like feels like it is like actually inhabited by a demon or something. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
there's something like truly kind of occult about it. Yeah, that is really it just feels like completely authentic. Like they're like in touch with some sort of mystical force. It's really compelling and weird.
yeah. It feels like this album needs an exorcism.
Yeah.
Feels like they're trying to summon something the entire album in the best way possible.
Yeah, it really has that like kind of haunted feeling that some black metal albums go for, I think.
Yeah.
Like even reading into the band's history and stuff, it doesn't really sound real. Like it sounds like they're too normal and it's like a cover up or something.
Yeah. You're like, this can't just be like a band. It's like, there's no way these are just like people.
Yeah, yeah. There's no there's no way it was a group of human beings that did this. They were mostly a live band, apparently, back in the
That
day.
makes sense.
In that interview I saw, the band said that they were actually like kind of unsatisfied with the recording of this album. Like they felt like it didn't really capture their live sound. Um,
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, which I found really interesting.
That I would be really interested to hear them like circa 71 live performance then.
Well, you kind of can. There's on their comeback album, the last track on it is a recording from like '72, and it's from the suite that they never got to actually record in the studio. It's like some 30-minute suite or something.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it's prefaced by like a 2-minute track of the singer just talking and like explaining why the recording sounds so shitty. And the sound quality is very, very bad and bootlegged and like it has decades of like degradation on it.
Oh, you should have said nothing. Just been like, here, just give it to us like that.
Yeah, well, he's like, yeah, we're probably gonna wonder why this sounds so different than the rest of the album.
It's so funny. I cannot imagine the singer of this album just being like,
Hey guys, so this next song, the recording's kind of bad, but
it's like I
It's
cannot imagine it.
basically that, but with a British accent. Like it does not sound like anybody who's involved, who you would imagine being involved in the creation of the first Utterance. It's insane. It's just like a normal British guy with
That's
like a
so
smooth
funny.
radio voice. It's like what?
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Time and neglect have not been kind to the original cassette, and the audio quality is not good despite a careful renovation by Johnny Seagrope.
Yeah, I mean the sound quality isn't great. It's very lo-fi, but it's like you can kind of see how it might have been like pretty nuts.
I'm sure. I mean, I think if I had a time machine, I would definitely just travel back in time and listen to these guys in their prime live. Like I'm sure that was fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Just the raw
Yeah.
energy, because you can feel that energy in the recording. Like it's crazy.
yeah. I kind of disagree with the bit. I mean, well, I also don't feel like I fully know. Like I don't have the frame of reference to know exactly what they were accomplishing live, but I think this album is like very fully realized. Yeah, this album, people didn't really get it at the time. Yeah, Mikkel Ackerfeld, or however you say his name, from Opeth, gave them a big boost in like the '90s and 2000s.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Yeah, yeah,
He named one of his albums after a line from the album.
yep.
Your arms, my hearse. Great album. Very good lyric as well.
That's my arms, your hearse. But
Ah,
I was like, wait, that's wrong. How's that wrong? I was like, oh yeah.
It's like not to be that guy.
Actually,
Actually, you're fucking wrong. So just,
But yeah, they didn't sell anything, and then they broke up, and then they came back and released another lackluster album in like '74, and then they broke up again because that didn't do anything either. And then
Football.
yeah, they tried the
Yeah.
like commercial route.
yeah, that was that until they come back in 2012, and they played some shows, and that's basically it. So not a whole lot is known about them because they never like got big, and it's kind of seen as a classic today, but more of a cult classic. So here we are.
Yeah, this album is definitely not something you would show like a person in normal day life. Like this is very niche sound, very niche album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. It's real weird.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Which I know is like, oh, it's just weird, but like it's legitimately just like a very odd record.
Yeah, just thinking in '71, thinking of making folk music that's this winding and progressive and like menacing, like that's still not really something that people do very often.
Yeah, like remains a not very, a well that's been tapped very much. This like really high energy and really weird and intense folk music. 'Cause that's like the thing with it is it's very like high tempo a lot of the time, and they really sort of can get off to like a gallop with like that's really
That's a good way to put it. It's a gallop.
Yeah, they said that like mostly the people who were into them at the time were more of like the heavy rockers. Like they said that Dio liked them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always sort of think a little bit. I feel like it doesn't exactly. It's not exactly an analogy that works, but it's like almost. It has like almost the vibe of like a metal album with like acoustic instruments. If you just like executed that idea with no modification, this is much weirder than that would be. But like, I don't know. There's like a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, it has like an almost aggressive energy to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're kind of like riffing sometimes. That's it.
Yeah.
Should we get into like individual tracks? I feel like it's still hard to like describe what's happening. in a
Yeah,
general sense.
let's go in with the opener.
All right.
Yeah, the single. What a chorus, man.
Yeah.
So good.
First track is called Diana. This is an incredible opener. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think it does a great job of setting the tone for the album. That like creeping, weird bass line. Yeah, I feel like the bass is a lot more like hyperactive than in most folk stuff.
Right off the bat, I just want to say like I love the percussion in this album. It's so
Yeah.
like bombastic, and there's a lot of really bizarre sounds that they use.
Yeah, it's never like a traditional drum kit.
No,
Yeah, it's
no, not
like
at all.
assorted like hand drums and just like weird esoteric like percussion instruments. It's really
Yeah, and immediately like the introduction of that vocal style of like it's playing some kind of creepy character sneaking up on this woman.
he's this weird sort of like lustful demon thing.
Yeah.
Who's like preying on this woman. It's really like
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
skin crawling.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's about like basically like chasing her through the woods, and then it like I don't know, it just like describes this like mystical forest scene that's like sort of wrapping around and like ensnaring her, and like well yeah, I mean, starts with lust he follows virtue close through the steaming woodlands, which is delivered like through the steaming woodlands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, talking about the bulging veins.
Yeah, the bulging veins.
It's like, yeah, because it very much feels like there's sort of a protagonist on this album, though it's like not that. If you actually like,
Conceptual.
yeah, it's not really a concept album in that sense. Like, it's not really. The lyrics don't exactly tie together. Like, they're sort of just about different things, but like the delivery is so strong. I don't know. The like the sort of impression is so strong that that's really hard not to see that all of these tracks as being just like the sort of character.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think the idea of a concept album is kind of stupid, personally.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fake. Like every album is like it has a concept, in some sense. It's just like when do you?
Yeah, like where do you actually draw the line? Because then
Yeah,
there's like a rock opera is a separate thing of like it tells
yeah,
a distinct story from track to track.
Oh
yeah,
no, we're gonna get all the Dream Theater people mad.
yeah,
Everything they do is a concept album, and it's also the best album of all time. And you can't play like that. You try playing those instruments.
I
yeah. That's
love that. I love that. Like you try playing it like that. It's like yeah, that gives them like
yeah. That makes it good music.
makes it good
Yeah,
music, makes them so we can't critique it. But you can't play the instrument that good.
it's like yeah, I can't, and I like what I play better.
Yeah.
The music on this album I also can't play, but I do think
No,
it's amazing.
and I can't sing this either. This is like try actually singing any of this and the way he sings it. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I love all the harmonies in this first track.
It's also like kind of driven by the strings, like the
Yeah,
violins and
yeah. A lot of the album is.
like you would expect like a folk album to be a lot more guitar based, and the acoustic guitars are always there basically, but like the melody of it is usually carried by the strings, which gives it a really unique sound.
Strings in the bass. A lot. There's a lot of that
Yeah.
in this album, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's like creeping, almost like pre post punk kind of bass.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that like
Yeah, no,
too much of a stretch?
I see what you mean. It's like a little ridiculous, but I see what you mean because it is like it
Yeah.
is because it's an electric bass is a thing that kind of always sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Right? It's very like it's all acoustic instruments and then it's an electric bass. Yeah, and it's got this yeah, and it does have that post-punky kind of like dong, 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 like it's very it's very like dry
Yeah.
and sort of like very like kind of deliberate and then also kind of moves around very, very fast. Yeah.
I think it's like a coincidence. Like I doubt there were a lot of post punk bands that were jamming to Comus, but
Comus.
Yeah. Bet some of them were.
maybe some
I
of them.
hope.
Because of course, like this album very much like it definitely also kind of fits the progressive folk kind of tag. That's one of the things that you can sort of hear that ties it to when it was made is that you hear some of the like standard elements of like prog,
Yeah.
and hear the way it sort of moves between sections and will return to sections and stuff like that. But it's really interesting the way that those transitions often happen because sometimes it'll be like literally like one thing will fade out and another thing will fade in.
Yeah, it's like a different recording.
Like it'll just be very obviously a different recording that just fades in. Like it's
like unnatural.
yeah, there's something very interesting and unnatural about it. Yeah, and even like when it's just there, when it's like the band all playing together in like a steady like section, then it'll still be like I don't know, they're just like very jarring and like they just like do all these like weird ideas.
I mean, it's one of those bands where they have a sound, they want to play this sound, and they did it like without any compromise, which I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for the 70s, like this is like crazy to think about. This came out in 71.
Same year as Led Zeppelin 4.
Oh wow, Bangarang.
Bangarang by Skrillex.
Yeah,
Bangarang,
Bangarang.
Scary Monsters and Ice Sprites. Yeah.
People don't give Skrillex enough credit for being so ahead of his time.
People never look at that I guess an EP was released on.
Yeah.
You think it's like so to
Most
like
people didn't
early
know what a computer
2010s.
was yet.
It was like very ahead of its time. What do you think first utterance means?
I hadn't really thought about that. Do you have any thoughts about that, Nathaniel? I feel like your brain usually fills in these gaps.
First utterance.
Yeah.
I mean, my when I first heard the title, my mind just immediately went to like some kind of like the first utterance of like a ritual or something. But I'm sure that's not it at all. But that's just where my mind went to.
No, it fits the vibe. I mean, I think a lot of this album sounds like the soundtrack to some kind of evil ritual.
The cover, what it very much looks like to me is that he's like been sort of dragged out into the sun or something, and is like seeing the
Yeah.
sun for the first time and is like recoiling from it. Like one of those things where it just like totally makes sense. Yeah, you can't
The
like
vibe matches.
make much intellectual sense of it, but it's yeah, the vibe matches. It has a sort
So-
of
so
there's
like
a sort
David
of
Lynch?
resonance.
Where it's like, oh yeah, I understand this, and then when you try to
Yes.
explain why, like
The-
why it makes sense, you're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, but I cannot explain it.
Yeah, the way I started describing things
Yeah.
like that is it makes emotional sense, not like logical
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
The Herald is a very cool track.
Oh, are we on the Herald?
Let's be on the Herald.
Okay. This track is definitely like the most, I don't want to say normal, but it's the least praised. Like it's very just a kind of a pretty track for majority of it.
Yeah,
The version of the Herald that's on streaming is like 12 minutes long, and the one on and it looks like the official one, at least on Your Music, is like 5.5 minutes, which is funny.
I think it's just there was some error in like in the first print of
Like
the
the-
album, in the first pressing.
like the original
like,
pressing, like
they were just listed as being like incorrect lengths.
Oh.
oh, I see. Okay, so they like printed the wrong, track lengths on like the actual like
Yeah, the
on,
wrong
the actual
numbers.
record, like packaging.
Yeah, because on Wikipedia
Yeah.
it says the track lengths that are on streaming, and I think I saw a comment somewhere that seemed to confirm this. But yeah, this is, I would agree, this is the prettiest track on here. It's mostly led by Bobby's vocals. It's like one of the prettiest songs I've ever heard. I'd say it's
Mm-hmm.
that guitar part with the like those arpeggios that really sounds like the beginnings of neo folk.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that like simple
Yeah,
just repeated motif.
yeah, it's really, yeah. I mean, this track has a really interesting progression to it too, because it has the part in sort of the early bit of the song where it has the female vocals, and then there's just sort of this like evolution that's very sort of relaxed and kind of like meditative.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a bunch of
Yeah.
sections. Yeah, there's one where it goes into like a full on like drone section, sort of in the last third of the track or so.
Yeah.
I don't know, people on, I think it's mostly a little stupid, but in this like section I do hear like the comparison to like natural snow buildings, like the fucking drone outfit.
Yeah.
Like a personal favorite of mine, who do these like extended like sort of free improv drone pieces with like various sort of folk instruments and mixed with guitar feedback. So it's like a and definitely a really kind of occult medieval atmosphere is like their sort of characteristic thing. And so there's like some of that here definitely in this track. I do see where that comparison comes from. This track, most of it, it's like most of this album is like so much more like lyrical and or like not lyrical, but like
Song-like.
vocal driven and like
Song
like high, yeah, it has songs and like high energy and stuff. That's like a little ridiculous to compare them, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, natural snow buildings must have been influenced by this, though.
Yeah, I bet.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, I don't think there was really like a frame of reference for the freak folk type stuff before this.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Biden likens Hamas to Putin and urges Americans to support extra funding for Israel and Ukraine. No, Israel is like Putin.
Of
What are you
course.
talking about?
Of course, he's like, oh yeah, all the bad guys are like
Free Palestine. My favorite track is Drip Drip.
My favorite
Me
track's also
too.
Drip Drip.
Yeah.
Oh, this time we're all in agreement.
Yeah, no, it is kind of the best track.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Nathaniel, why don't you say what makes it your favorite track?
It's mostly just due to the instrumentation. Like I love the strings on this track. It goes so fucking hard.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
riffing.
They're riffing with string instruments. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that string melody in this song has been stuck in my head the whole time we've been listening to this. That main one, like that one's been just stuck in my head like literally
Yes.
for a week and a half.
Yeah, I feel that.
I like the little interlude where it's really creepy for a second and it just goes right back to jamming.
Yeah, there's another one with like all kinds of sections. It's hard to even keep them all straight because it's just like so evolving and like yeah. And I think this track really sort of feels like it feels like a bit of a centerpiece. It's really it feels like it kind of encapsulates what the album's about. It's basically it's about this sort of some sort of like a weird like blood ritual thing with like the dripping always I always assume is blood.
Yeah, it says drip drip from your sagging lip, liquid red
Yeah.
down your body spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's like we're like listening into some sort of like ritual sacrifice or something. That or like really kinky sex. But I mean,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the common interpretation of the lyrics is that it's about uh having sex with a corpse that's been hanged.
oh,
Really?
oh,
Is that on this track?
That part where it says like shall I cut you down? Uh yes, 'twould
Yeah.
be a last or your last physical communion. I'll be gentle.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I feel like I'm not convinced that that's the only interpretation. There's this sort of occult like ritual thing.
there's almost like a reverence.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the beginning, it says you dangling, swinging, hanging, spinning, aftermath. Your soft white
Yeah.
flesh turns past me, slaked with blood. Your evil eyes more damning than a demon's curse. Your lovely body soon caked with mud. As I carry you to your grave, my arms your hearse.
Yeah, I
well,
definitely can see that.
such great imagery.
But yeah, the tone of it is very like ritualistic. So it's there's definitely some things like that are left like intentionally unexplained or open to interpretation.
I was sort of what it always called to mind with me was like a sacrifice or something where there's like stabbing with the blade. It has this sort of both has this like sort of ritual purpose and also there's like this sort of sexual like element to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, especially like the phrasing of like a last physical communion. Like communion is a very religiously charged word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I always sort of thought. It was like some sort of physical ritual, like being like sacrificed or being yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It might not be as literal as necrophilia, but I think there are definitely like tones of it, like that the way he describes the body, but
Yeah.
he doesn't say what he's gonna do to it exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it could also just be him like in reverence of how, like the beauty of it, maybe like to
yeah,
him at least.
it could be that he's gonna like eat her or something. Like we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things it could be.
Like a lot of this album is this sort of lust and violence and like sort of occult spirituality, just like all of those together all at once.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Have you guys seen The Witch? I mean, I know you have,
Yes.
Freddie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen The Witch.
Okay, yeah, it's yeah, what you're saying, Freddie, kind of reminds me of that. Like I think the album kind of lyrically and thematically takes maybe a vaguely similar approach to that movie where it doesn't like really tell you what the witch cult is like about exactly. It doesn't
Yeah, it's very vague on like what the witch is trying to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
like there's no evil monologue by the witch at the end, which is like, this is why I'm doing these things. you
Yeah.
know?
I'm doing it because you're.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it wasn't like she wasn't sympathetic. She wasn't pure evil. It was just like it's almost like a force of nature almost. Like it's just unexplainable.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Just like it's just this like it's like the way a natural disaster or something feels, where it's just like completely uncaring, and it's almost more horrifying because of that.
Yeah, exactly. When you can't understand something, you feel like you have less control over it, and that's like the central fear in most horror is a lack of control, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going into this track more like instrumentally, it has this very probably the first half or so is this like is this sort of crescendo where it is sort of building an intensity and speed.
God, the vocal melodies are so captivating in that first
I
verse.
know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
You can really tell where Opeth got some of their clean vocals from.
Oh,
here.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, especially early Opeth clean vocals. Like if you listen to like Bid You Farewell or Window Pane, it's very much like,
Yeah.
oh, that's Comus. Like the melodies and shit's very, very influentially from that. I love shit like that where you hear something you're like, oh fuck, that's where that person got that from. It's like one of my favorite things in music is when you can like see the
Yeah.
origin of someone's sound from something else.
But yeah, his vocal delivery on this is so passionate. It's like edge of your seat shit, you know? It's like you have no
Yeah,
choice but to listen to what he's saying.
it's very passionate. Like if you really don't pay attention to what he's saying, it almost sounds like something like it's like this tragedy almost. But then you like actually pay attention to what he's talking about, and you're like, oh, that's really fucked up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's like part of what makes a song sound and feel so twisted is this like kind of sense of tragedy about it. The phrase like "my arms, your hearse," like that's so powerful.
Yeah, like it sounds like he
Yeah.
definitely like he's like he sees beauty in it, but also it's like something maybe he didn't want to happen almost. Like I don't think he hung this person, at least from what I understand and interpreted from it.
So I imagine it was an execution.
Yeah, that's
I
what
got the idea that it was
think
like a
of, yeah.
witch. Like we like burn at the stake or like kill witches and stuff. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, and the whole time those strings are just beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. When he says like your deep navel fountains, that makes me think like a stab wound that has like
Yeah.
blood coming out of it. Yeah, it is a thing that
could
there's
definitely see
another
it.
thing is why would this person be bleeding if they were like just hanged?
Just the like dangling,
Yeah, I think I don't
swinging,
know.
hanging, spinning thing. Like that might be I don't know. It might have been
Yeah.
some like weird torture ritual thing.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the part I forget when it happens when they all lock into this big building sort of billowing thing where it's that's the part with like the
Yeah.
it gets like super and more and more and more intense. Yeah, the moments like that are just like so fucking cool.
Bright the sunlight, summer day. Comus wakes, he starts to play, 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 play.
I do think Song to Comus is an interesting one to touch on, maybe with this like weird, lust demon thing, like kind of luring somebody into a cave and doing bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, this album is fucking evil.
Yeah.
It is like dark. Some vile shit happening.
Yeah.
Chastity chaser, virile for the virgin's virtue. Oh god, the the words hymen hunter are in this song.
Oh. Hyman Hunter, huh?
Oh my god, that's so fucked.
Yeah, that's like I can barely even say that. I mean, like having the confidence to do this like crazy vocal style and then sing these kinds of things back in
Yeah.
'71.
Oh, there it is.
Like, that's
Hyman
just
Hunter.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I also love the like how they like repeat the words.
Yeah.
Like
Misty,
glare,
yeah,
glare,
rah, rah, rah. Yeah.
so ominous. Yeah, Hyman Hunter,
so-
hands of steel, crack you open, and your red flesh peel. He's gonna cut ya, pain producer, eyes of fire, pierce your room and push still higher.
Yeah.
He literally says, "Call us rape, call us break."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
They
Yeah.
they didn't give a fuck.
Were music videos like a thing in the '70s?
They weren't a thing till Video Killed the Radio Star. That was like the first big one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Funnily enough.
That'd be so funny if they just like casually like invented the music video for this like random fucking just like this random weird ass band. was like the real.
Yeah, it just did everything first. It had like the album was also secretly an NFT somehow or something.
Oh, the album cover is absolutely like an NFT. Like
Yeah.
that face.
Yeah,
Speaking of the face, do you notice he's crying and also has a Karen haircut?
I noticed
Yeah.
the tear.
Yeah.
That's why he's crying. The barber got his haircut wrong.
There's some ominous sound coming from outside. I think it's like a very high pitched like squeal thing.
Oh God.
Sounds a little bit like a freak folk band who made a
Like a song to
cult classic
Comus
album
almost.
from 1971.
Is Comus outside my apartment?
God, that is literally like the shittiest like horror film ever. God, it almost sounds like that band from 1971. You know, Comus?
It's a bunch of really old British people.
Yeah, it sounds like that band from 1971. Comus? Yeah, that one. Oh,
Comus.
what do you mean? The outside plane? Yeah. That's fucking stupid.
Why would they do that?
Oh, yeah, why would they do that? I don't know. He's out there though. Just the guy from the album cover, just like screaming to the music. It's like, oh, that's eerie. I don't know why I always assume
Huey.
British people to have eerie. I always assume British people have the most like non-plus reactions to literally everything. I know that's not actually the case, but in my head, that's how it is.
I thought you were just casually implying that the creature on the album cover is named Huey.
He is now. Thank you very much. He is now. That's Huey, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was
I would
Comus,
have.
but I guess it's
Yeah, I
Huey.
would have assumed it was Comus, but I guess he's just Huey.
I guess he's Huey now. Maybe that's his last name.
Comus Huey.
Comus Huey.
Yeah.
Or is it Huey Comus?
Oh my god! Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's my neighbor. We don't talk to Huey.
Huey Comus? Yeah, that one.
He's come out of the basement again.
Ah, what's he doing? Is he writhing on the ground in pain? Yeah, he is.
Well, what else?
Yeah, that's what he do. That's what he does. Comus Huey. I thought it was Huey Comus.
I'm not sure.
Interchangeable. Interchangeable. Interchangeable.
I don't think he has a birth certificate.
I don't think he's human.
Well, surely not.
I just love the idea of British people being like, just seeing the most horrific shit and just be like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's strange. Because I know it's not actually how British people are, but in my head that's how they are. They're just like they just
I know
don't
they're
give
not
a shit.
actually all exactly like that, but it's pretty close, you know.
It's like how British people probably think all Americans are like, what the fuck is going on? God damn, where's my gun and beer?
It's the homunculus that lives across my flat again.
Oh, it's
See, he's made it outside.
It's that Mongol, the Eldritch Whore.
The Eldritch Abomination lives across the street.
Yeah. What was his name again? Oh, Hugh.
Short for Huey. Huey Comus.
Huey Comus. I don't know if everyone else finds this as funny as I do, but you know, it's fine.
I'll also do it back. I think it's funny.
Who do you think? What do you think is the bite?
I don't know, but
think-
I just know those flutes in the beginning are fucking cool. That's what I know.
Huey's out and about with his chompers again.
Bro, Huey's going biting again.
It's the bite of 87.
Yeah, it's like, what's the Five Nights at Freddy's thing?
You guys hyped for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and the Iron Lung film? You guys
Free Palestine. Slob on my Comus, am I right?
Yo!
That was actually funny, Noah.
Yeah.
My Comus.
Some of this is gonna be stupid as fuck.
Huey wishes.
Fucking Huey, man.
Huey wouldn't be looking like that if he got some top, you know what I mean? Like this is what No Head does to a motherfucker.
True.
This album, the cover
He's
is what
the
No Head does
sloppiest
to a
top.
motherfucker.
This is Huey right before he this is the picture on this album cover, if you guys don't know, by the way. This is real. So this man's named Huey Comus, and he decided to change his last name years later in the 80s to Lewis, and he started this band called Huey Lewis and the News. It was actually pretty big. You may have heard of them, but yeah, just a fun fact.
His manager gave him a bit of a different image.
Yeah, yeah, just a
You gotta glow up.
a bit of a glow up,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or what if like his face in the cover is just actually the face he makes while he's getting the sloppy top?
Oh, okay. He's crying. He's crying when that happens.
It's really good. Really good top.
This is what Huey Lewis looks like when he's getting sloppy.
He reverts back to his original form.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like a magic. Like he has to like concentrate, but when he's getting the slobby, he just can't concentrate, and he turns back to his original Comus form.
It's like that shapeshifter thing in Star Wars Episode 2.
Oh yeah!
God, I
oh
cannot
my,
believe you just.
exactly
I cannot believe you just brought up the fucking Star Wars prequels in this fucking podcast.
They're my favorite movies.
You say that, but there's people like H. Bomber Guy that actually think those movies are like really good and deep.
As soon as H-Bomb releases that video, I'm going to vandalize his house. I'm going to
I'm
find
so
his
excited
address.
because he's been
Yeah.
talking about doing a video on the prequels for years, and I'm like, do it, please. I really want to hear your reasoning why you think these are like really deep.
It's gonna make me mad. I think I'm generally a pretty open-minded person, but I'm like, this is just gonna be a load of horse shit.
Yeah, there's no way in hell.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to do it this way. I wanted Comus in the movie originally, but I couldn't get him at the time. But
The CGI technology just wasn't far enough for us to put Comus in the movie.
I saw the
told
album
them-
cover and I wanted that, and they said we can do Jar Jar instead, so I decided to go with that instead of Comus. But
And
yeah,
I
think
realized
that's
that Jar
why-
Jar was the key to all of this.
that's when I realized he was the key to all this, and Comus was, just kind of creepy and perhaps a little evil.
I can't wait for like the George Lucas special edition of like the sequel Star Wars movies where you just have like Comus like walking in front of the camera every couple scenes.
True. Well, originally Luke Skywalker at the end of Force Awakens was gonna look like Comus.
It's a Comus cameo, and then like it's supposed to be this big moment, like the scene is otherwise the same, and the audience is just like, "What the fuck was that? Was I supposed to know what that was?"
What
And then, like the one fucking nerd, the audience is just like,
Yeah, it's like
it's Comus.
No, he wouldn't even be like, yo, he'd be like, is that fucking Comus? Like that would be his reaction. He's like, what the like, who would be happy? Who would
What's
be happy?
Comus
Like,
doing there, man? Yo,
I saw the cover for first Utterance, and I thought that Comus might be a good way to sell some toys. I thought that might be the new craze if we sold Comus action figures. I still told Disney that if I ever was going to make another Star Wars movie, it would have to have Comus in it. But then they took it from me because they're white slavers.
They're white slavers. They're white slavers. Please put that audio up.
Right, I loved them. I created them. I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and okay, but
because it's so funny because he says it and then he laughs really like nervously, like you can tell he's like, oh god, did I just say that? It's
Yeah, he's
so
like,
funny.
Instant regret. Like,
Yeah.
that was a bad look.
It's not like you're any better, George. Let's be honest. Like,
Also, like, what race of people does he think did slavery in the United States? Like,
yeah, why specify that? You're right. I never even thought of that. Why specify white? They were white.
Maybe he's drawing attention to, how there's that thing of like, oh, America did slavery, but like,
Palestine.
I think the bite is very cool. I really like the thing about it seems like this one seems pretty clearly about like
Christian
somebody
death porn.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, it is literally like there's a Christian and there's somebody who's just referred to as the Christian who is just like in prison and then gets hanged at the end. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool.
This
Yeah.
album has a lot of like pagan stuff where it's like very much like mysticism almost.
Yeah, I find that so compelling on this track. The really leading into the pagan thing. Like, oh man, yeah, it's like saying the Christian is like this new thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I was
Christian.
gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
even just the phrasing of that just frames it as like the Christian being like the foreigner to the narrator.
And the bitten's just like a almost like an interlude for the final
Yeah, it's
track.
just like a little interlude. Yeah,
I do like
Literally.
it's the bite and then bitten.
Yeah, it's fun.
That is cool.
So freakish, the sound of it.
God, yeah, it's so unnerving, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
And then it ends with The Prisoner. I guess this is the first time we've actually done like a track by track, but it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense for this album.
Yeah, it's not a lot of tracks.
Yeah, I think the Prisoner would definitely be a contender for my favorite. Since Drip Drip is here, that certainly is the winner. But yeah, I really love the Prisoner. I think what's so interesting about it is like the other ones kind of feel like they exist in some like long past time, you know, where there's like it's like the sort of happening in like the mystical forest or whatever, whereas this one is like very explicitly about like suddenly this character is like in the modern world, or at least the modern world as of 1971, and is being treated in exactly the way that the character would be in the modern world, which is to be like shoved through the mental health system and like be given shock treatment. It happens very explicitly. And,
I never put that
my
together.
God.
That's so cool. Oh my god.
I like schizoid, paranoid, just terms, just names, just names. Why can't you leave me? 1970s American mental health system was a horror show.
Yeah. Like lobotomies and yeah.
Yeah, it's jail with like experiments and torture, which is
Yeah,
Yeah.
fucking
they all
shock
got
treatment.
shit.
That's just like torture. Like that's so fucked up.
I mean, we still do that, by the way.
Yeah, it still happens. It's
That still happens, and
Yeah, I
also
guess
we
so.
don't know
Yeah.
why it works. Like
Yeah.
we don't know why it happens or why it works, but we just do it because we know it works, but we don't know like why
Yeah.
it actually works, which is scary to think about.
That's
Yeah, which means
weird.
that somebody's just like shocking the shit out of somebody and being like, I don't know, maybe it'll do something. And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess it happened.
It works sometimes, but we just don't know why. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the brain gets fucking fried, so clearly there's something to do with it, but yeah, no, this track is almost makes you feel bad for Mr. Huey Comus, which is like the first time you feel bad for this man the whole album, because goddamn, if you just like assume he's the same person to all these songs, he is horrible.
Yeah.
Poor Huey.
Poor
He's
Huey.
just casually, we're calling him Huey Comus now.
That's his name.
This is the lore.
That's his name. That's his real name.
That's the lore.
Canonically.
Yeah. Great. I love the very, very end. Where we're just saying insane. It's like going like back and forth on your right and left ears.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Such a ballsy way to end the album.
The place where it starts is very kind of like instrumentally, particularly like when during the first verse is very like kind of like blissful. I don't know. It's like he's sort of in this bliss or whatever. It's like okay, but then suddenly they're giving him shock treatment. It's like they gave me shock treatment, and then the instrumental gets all like coarse and like and like dissonant. Yeah, it's like such good like drama. I don't know. Yeah, I really love the way what they do with sort of just like recontextualizing the rest of the album as like this sort of so yeah, like, and it's like suddenly like a political thing, you know, like suddenly there's like something there's like a political aspect that just like was not there before, and it's really deftly done. I don't know, I really love that as a way to end the album.
This album is dark, it's brooding, it's malicious and evil, and it sounds great. It's awesome. If you're able to stomach the lyrical content of this album, you need to listen to it. It's amazing.
Like it feels like it's possessed by an evil deity or something. It's really strange album, really amazingly ahead of its time, and certainly not for everyone, but you know,
No,
That's
no, no.
those things we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of the kind of album that or like the thing we sort of center on in this podcast. I think that is like things very much like this, where it's just like, you know, you have to like dig deep into like random internet music communities and stuff to see like discussion of it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's a fantastic album. Definitely worth a listen if you just want something outside of your comfort zone. Something to expand your mind a little bit. And the bonus tracks are also good. If
Oh yeah, the
you're
bonus tracks are cool.
if you like
Yeah.
Yeah. So check those out also. They're on the
Especially
streaming version.
Diana's single version.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's a
Though
essential,
you
but,
you really don't know what you're missing when you just hear the album version. You're missing like negative 12 seconds.
yeah, thanks for
for
listening.
listening, y'all. We'll see you on the
Um,
next one.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Stay off the streets. Don't.
Free Palestine.
Cut Freddy off with your Free Palestine clip at the end.
Yeah, that sounds good.